When your supervisor say discuss your findings, after you have discussed your findings, they are just using shorthand, and if you take it literally, you are going to end up in endless revision. So when examiners say discuss your findings, they are only looking for 5 things, and the first one is interpretation, not restating your results. Now this is what it means. When you are restating your results, you are telling your examiners what you found, but when you are interpreting it, you are telling them what it means. So for example, if your result is something like nurses reported high levels of burnout, then your discussion would sound like this suggests that burnout is driven by systemic work overload, not deficit in individual coping mechanisms. So you're trying to say that nurses are burned out because of too much patients or too much work in the ward. It's not because all of them lack a coping mechanism. So an actionable tip here is for every finding you want to ask yourself, what does it tell us and why does it matter beyond my data set? That's it. The second one is when examiner says discuss your findings, it may be that they want you to integrate with existing literatures. If you've interpreted your results and you didn't integrate it with existing literatures, the work is not fully done. Your findings must enter academic conversations. So examiners or supervisors want to see how your findings align, contrast, or extend a previous study or challenge existing research. So an actionable tip here is to use phrases like this study aligns, this study contrasts, or this study extend a previous findings by dash dash dash. If these are not mentioned, examiners assume that you haven't connected your findings to the existing literatures. So the next one is unexpected findings. Now, examiners expect you to explain the reason behind the emergence of an unexpected findings. For example, maybe you found something that you were not expecting, that it's kind of odd, like you were not thinking it. So instead of bringing it to your chapter 5 and discussing it and giving some reasons why you think that might have happened, maybe it's the population or it's the time of the research or anything, you just left it in your chapter 4, ignoring it as if it doesn't exist. So if they discover something like that, they might ask you to discuss your findings properly, and this is what it could actually mean. So an actionable tip here is to just acknowledge that finding directly. For example, an unexpected finding was X. This may be explained by Y, or this highlights the need for further investigation. This shows intellectual honesty and analytical maturity. The fourth one is implications. Now, it's possible that you entirely skip this paragraph or this section in your discussion section. So your examiner is going to ask you to discuss your findings properly. You have to discuss the implication of your study for policy, for practice, or for education. Like, why should anyone care about your study? Because the examiner will be like, okay, you've presented your finding, then so what? What else? Like, you need to tell them why anyone should care about your findings. At the end, you have to state the implications of your study. An actionable tip here is to show what changes, what improves, or what deepens understanding because of your research. Do not always assume that the importance of your research is obvious. You always have to spell it out. Now, the fifth one is limitations and future research. So after you've shown why your findings matter, why anyone should care about your findings, you want to show that you understand their limits as well. This demonstrates critical awareness. An actionable tip here is to just say that this study is limited by X. Future research could address this by Y. Now, to strengthen your discussion section deliberately, number one thing that you want to do is to create a findings to literature metrics. That is, for each relevant finding, you want to have a relevant study or a literature for it. And the second one is to structure your discussion by key findings, not by restating your results heading. Number 3 is to read high quality published research papers and notice how authors interpret and how they discuss their findings, so that you don't end up summarizing your chapter 4. And the last one is to practice explaining why anyone should care about your findings. Like, so what? We've seen your results. Why should anyone care? Because if you can explain it clearly, you can definitely write it clearly. So once you understand how to discuss your findings, the final question becomes what actually decides whether a thesis passes or it struggles and you end up in endless revisions. That's the unspoken rule that we will cover next, and when I do it, I'm going to link it right here. I'll see you in my next video.